Hello, confident, successful businesswomen. How are you? So, you're probably wondering, okay, Ali, I know that you're due to come live into the group at 10 a.m. this morning, but you're coming live at 9. Don't panic, I'm coming back at 10. But before we get into that, we have an amazing interview planned for you with a very special member of our group today. This is our regular business member spotlight, where we interview beautiful ladies in the group to hear all about them and their businesses. So today, what I would love to do is introduce you to the beautiful Ashley Lopez. How are you going, lovely lady?
I am fantastic today. How are you?
I am amazing. We were just talking about my chakra thing in the background. We are just talking about how we're already involved in another course together. What I'm finding is amazing, these connections that we have that we don't even know.
Yes. You kind of second guess it. You're like, how do I know that person? How do they come into my life? They just appeared.
Yeah. Where did you come from again? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome, darling. So, Ashley, if you would love to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how essentially you got into doing what you're doing.
Okay, beautiful. So I'm Ashley. I am an NLP practitioner and a life coach, and I've labeled myself the deeper relationships coach, mainly because I really believe the most important relationship that you have is with yourself. And the deeper that you go with that relationship, just the more you can experience in a good way. And, a lot of our struggles and our suffering can come from the internal conflicts that we have. And so that is part of the work that I do, is really just coming home to you, embracing yourself more. And a lot of the women that I've worked with, it's usually around confidence and insecurity, but also healing the past. And
Very much, yeah.
forgiveness and learning to trust yourself again, which is all things that I've been through. So how I got into this work is I've just always been interested in how humans behave. I always have been, but I went through, gosh, a couple of years ago now, before my husband was my husband, he cheated on me. And so I went through this very isolated hole that was very hard. Went through like the grieving process, and I berated myself for it. I was like, you've been through so much harder things. Why are you, being so, I called myself ridiculous. And so I was really challenged with my relationship with myself, as well as my external relationship. And what I found was, yes, working externally on my relationship was very beneficial, but a lot of the work was coming home to me, loving myself, trusting myself, relieving the blame, shame, any regret. And so I can safely say we're in a loving, secure relationship now, which is wonderful. But that really catapulted me into the work that I do, because I guess I really want to help people do the work that I did in diving deep.
Wow, that is an amazing success story in itself. What a powerful, powerful why to be in business. That is, I mean, do you, in the people that you work with, or the people that you talk to, would you hear? I would assume you wouldn't hear that very often. Whereas someone who has, whose partner has had an affair, and like you said, it's the inner work that we have to do ourselves first to understand. And I understand that from the place of being someone who's had 2 domestically violent marriages and had to work on myself to overcome that. But I think my question is, would you see that a lot, or would you see it very often, like people who've essentially been cheated on, then coming into a very loving marriage?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because the people that I do know that have been cheated on, that are willing to admit that, I probably know 1 or 2 couples that have stayed in relationship. Whether they're happy or not is another question. And yeah, it really comes down to, us doing the work, but also the other person doing the work as well. It's such a complex thing to work around, but it's interesting. First of all, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that with your relationships, but I know that you probably understand how it's brought you to where you are now.
Absolutely. It's part of my why story. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was in that position as well. Not with my current partner, with an ex-partner. And that again catapulted me into just stepping into who I really am, what I want to do, and how I want to experience life, really. So it's interesting how our negative experiences can, once we are ready and once we choose to, catapult us into just amazing growth and experiencing joy and pleasure and all this stuff. But I guess the work that I do is a lot about, working on yourself, but I understand that, sometimes I don't like the term self-development and work, because it becomes, I need to fix this, instead of I need to see this for what it is, acknowledge it, and process it, feel it, maybe let it go, or learn to love it in the long run.
Some powerful words you said there. Process, learn to love it, grow, accept, all of those sorts of things. And I want to, I love your title was, sorry, remind me, what was your title?
The Deeper Relationships
Coach. Relationship Coach. When you say the word relationship, does that always refer to romantic relationships?
No, not at all. So it is targeting women in relationships, usually. Like, that's my ideal client. However, I also, people come to me with friendship problems, people come to me with, family issues. So I really do want to help people with all their relationships, because they're so important.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. And something that I learned when I first saw a psychologist, which I was probably 19, she'd asked me who my support system is. And I was just blank. I was like, I don't know. Like, I had friends, but they weren't the people that could support me, nor was I open to the support. And so since then, over time, I've really understood the gravity of having, yes, that relationship with yourself, but also having good relationships with the people around you, creating those, and, letting people go that maybe don't serve you to your highest good.
So important, isn't it? Yeah. And really, essentially, it all comes back to what you said before, is it's making that decision, and it's taking ownership of looking deeper into ourselves, isn't it?
Yes, which is scary for people who have not done that before. Like, you would know, and I know that it's it's also like, once you first get into that too, once you're first actually willing to see yourself for how you truly are in that moment, it can be so shocking and hard to actually like look in the mirror. I very quickly jumped into like criticism, like self-criticism and self-judgment and things like that. And so I kind of, I want to ease that process for people, I suppose.
And I think the thing too is, sometimes when we go to look deeper into ourselves, we can often, instead of framing it as learning more about ourselves, we tend to go to a place of blame. Like, I know for me, in my marriages, when they fell apart, it was like, well, it's all my fault. And that was part of the development from the domestic violence, but it was also some other stuff that, streamed from the past. And so blame, I mean, would you help a lot of ladies who feel that way?
Definitely. It's funny that it's not funny, but it's so interesting that you mentioned that word, because a client that I'm working with today, we're working through blame. And sorry, what was the question that you asked me?
It was kind of like, do you work with many people who come to you with that sense of blame, rather than, so they're just, like I said, they're blaming themselves rather than understanding that it's not necessarily their fault, but it's where what am I trying to say? I don't even know what to ask.
It's okay. I'll answer that first part of the question. So yeah, I got you. Definitely that's a huge part of even in terms of like the grieving process, no matter what it is that you're suffering with, the grieving process, part of that is, although it's not labeled blame, it is, you do blame yourself a lot. And I've been through that. And, but yeah, that's actually the flip side of the coin when it comes to taking ownership, right? Like there's like a shadow, a light side and a shadow side. The light side is like, yes, I'm accountable for my actions. I'm going to choose differently. And then there's, I'm completely to blame because I had all this choice. And so a lot of it, yeah, I'm really working through compassion, like self-compassion with people, being able to understand that you don't know better than like the knowledge that you have. It's like that awareness precedes change. If you don't have the awareness that that's going to that what you're going through is whatever, it's hard to describe without, I guess, an exact scenario. But really highlighting the awareness, but also that compassion is the most important part for me.
Well, to give you, I mean, you know, to give you a scenario, like I said, when I left my first marriage, it was I left it, and there was a lot of blame that I put on myself. How do I put it? It was blame that I wasn't providing my children with a two-parent family. A blame that I had essentially been a big part in the marriage failing. There was, you know, and I think a lot of it, and this seems like a very generic term, but it's not when you're in it. It's blame that you blame yourself for not being good enough. It seems like a generic term, but it's really not when you're in it.
Yeah.
You find that as well?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Something that I really, when I was reading, when you sent me your bio and your details, something I really wanted to ask you, and you've already mentioned that, you know, some, you know, how you got into this with your husband cheating on you. And when you said that, I went, oh my goodness, because now you guys run a podcast together?
Yeah.
How the heck did you talk him into that?
You know what? It took zero convincing. He is the most social chatterbox. He loves diving into deep conversations, and he's wanted to start a podcast. He's said for ages, you know, he's like, oh, I should do my own podcast, because he listens to Joe Rogan a lot. But he just didn't have the capacity to create it. And he also has a full-time job as a teacher. So there was a lot of limitations there in believing that he would be able to do it. Physically, but also, you know, with what he says, because he is a role model for,
of course,
yes, so the podcast that I created it on my own first, and it's all about relationships, wellness, empowerment, and that creates a safe boundary for him to be able to talk about those topics and not dive into topics that might, I don't want to say get him in trouble, but they possibly could, depending on how strict, you know, the school is.
Having worked in a school, I get it.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? Even first of all, having him on, I was worried about how other people would perceive our story. I was worried about how if the school heard it, what they would think. And then even in the episodes where I don't have him on, I thought anything that I do could be a reflection onto him, and then the school would get him in trouble. And so I've had to do, I'm still, this is a great example, I'm still doing the work, right? Like I'm still learning to embrace myself and understand that it's okay to be authentic and things like that. So easy to get him on.
And it is so brave of both of you, you know, and like I said, working in a school, I respect that there's things that you can and you can't do, but you know, I really respect the courageousness of both of you for coming. And I'm actually, what I would love you to do is pop your link for your podcast in the comments afterwards if you can, because I'd love people to go and have a listen. I want to go and have a listen because I'm, you know, like I said, it's not necessarily because my relationship is suffering, but I'm curious as to your courageousness to go out and speak so openly, or as openly as you can.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. It's honestly, I think it is part of my healing as well. for both of us. I never said a word. I always made sure it was okay with my husband first, because people automatically tend to go hate the cheater kind of thing. So I was very cautious about that at first. But Chaz that's my husband, has been so willing to do anything that is going to help me heal, because he saw how hard it was on me. So, and that was part of it, being able to express myself, and then also being able to, the more authentic you are, the more you draw people in who understand or going through the same thing. And so I can help those people.
And also, excuse me, and I think you mentioned this before, it's also a healing journey for you as well. You know, I actually ran a podcast for a while that was all about assisting people who'd survived domestic violence. And still to this day, while I share my story, part of what I share is the fact that, you know, I've gone through this stuff. Like you said, it's part of my why. But every time we share it, it's a healing. I feel that it's healing me deeper every single time I share it. Do you find that with your podcast and every time you interview like this, the same?
Yes, totally. You can feel it in your body, how like it gets less heavy over time. Yes. And you almost start to become empowered by what you're saying as well. And so it's so crazy, isn't it?
It is. And here's the thing too, and to be real, I want to really put this into realistic terms. So it doesn't mean that, you know, I mean, I know for me, I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me, I share it. And yes, it is, you know, we go deeper, but it doesn't say that we don't always feel it when we're saying it. Sometimes when I talk about stuff that you know, that I've overcome, I lose my voice, or I get even a little bit triggered, because it's these things that we've overcome, and now whys we're consistently dealing with them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But it is
they're in our face a lot.
Nevertheless.
Yeah. And you know, you would know, and I'm sure like some of the listeners would know as well, that healing isn't always this beautiful aha moment. It's you know,
ongoing.
Yeah, experiencing life. And I guess I do want to put this out there too, because I understand this is part of like a business spotlight, that you don't have to share in order to heal. Like there's some things that you know, there's a quote that says, if you don't, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, if you don't, you know, learn to accept these things to some level first, you're going to be figuring it out with everybody else if you share it. And so that's so hard to be able to do. I mean, look at celebrities. It's so intense and emotionally draining for them. And so there's things that I'm so willing to share, even outside of the cheating, you know, other things that might be a bit taboo for people, but only when I feel called to. And so checking in is so important with how it sits with you and how it feels and why you're sharing it. Are you sharing it, you know, to are you being authentic in sharing it, or are you just sharing it because it might get you attention? And so I'm very trying to only share when I feel as though it's called for.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that. Because some people, and actually this was a mistake that I made when I started in business. I was too open. What I shared, and the intention behind it was good. Well, I believe some other people might not. The intention behind it was good, but you're right. Is you know, I wasn't sitting in that place of, okay, listen to what, you know, feel it. Is it really necessary to share that, or is it a little bit too much? Is it good for me? First, before, if it's not good for me, then it's really not good for other people to share. And something that I teach is, when you share your why, you know, you don't need to share stuff that you're not comfortable with sharing.
Totally.
It's a big thing with you and your podcast and everything that you do, I'm sure.
Yes, totally. It's funny because I've really lately been trying to separate myself from my ego and like the thoughts and the feelings of my ego, and step into being like my authentic self online. And it's funny, as soon as I've started doing this, I've copped some flack from it, from like some people, and judgment. And that's the challenge, right? It's like,
Yep.
the universe is like, okay, cool. You want to show up authentically. This is exactly what we want. I'm going to challenge you and see if you can still do it while it's hard. And I'm like,
Daily basis.
Yeah.
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 And that's when we get to a point as business owners going, well, okay, and you need to go back to our why and go, okay, well, I've got a choice to make right now. We're going to keep going. Most of us will say yes.
Yes.
And a lot of us, which I have done in the past, will go, oh no, it's all too hard. I'm not going to share anything else because people are saying bad things about me. And again, it all comes back to you being so brave to share what you feel comfortable to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
And I have, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, sometimes it feels good in the moment, and then afterwards you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And you do have to take that time away. You do have to, like you said, you do have to step back a little and just, process it, remember your why, and then you can come back and do what you need to do. But
absolutely fantastic. So tell us, what I would love to know, Ashley, is how, you've talked about how you help ladies. How do you facilitate it? Like, how do you do one-on-one group coaching? How do you work?
So mostly one-on-one coaching. I do, I do a 6-week program. I split it every fortnight now because it's much easier for everybody actually involved to actually do the work. But yeah, one-on-one online over Zoom. A lot of it is, I will go through NLP tools, but I'll also give activities to do because I'm a very firm believer in, feeling, listening into our intuition and, grounding and meditating, but then you also need to take action at the same time. It's that balance that I love. So that's how the sessions work. I am starting up or contemplating starting up a group session every fortnight, a very low cost. It's called Self-Care Club. And it's all about people, even for myself, being able to come together every fortnight and do an activity that, they might want to do, but never actually end up doing because they don't have the accountability to do that. And I've fallen into that trap as well. So I want to be able to do that. But and also free webinars. I do lots of free webinars because I love actually speaking to groups and seeing people interact. It's fun.
I know, I feel you.
Yeah.
I totally get you there. It is so much fun, especially when you're not talkers like us, when you're really shy and quiet and retired and everything.
Yeah.
That
definitely.
was totally sarcastic, by the way.
What's so funny is I think I still identify as shy, even though I'm not
really?
shy anymore. Yeah, I think I need to shed that layer of myself. I was so shy as a kid. So you've opened my eyes to that. Thank you very much.
Go. See, I don't know. I've never been shy. But anyone in this group can tell you she's right.
Yeah.
No, seriously, Ashley, I love what you do, and all I want to say is, where the hell were you when my marriages fell apart?
Right, I know. When we go through things like that, we're always like, where is that person? I'm constantly on podcasts, and I'm like, where is the podcast that I need? I need help right now, and that person doesn't come until we've actually worked through it ourselves, and then the person comes, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
But then you're also like, oh, I did it.
Oh, yeah. Part of me goes, well, I'm good. I did it. I got over it. But it would have been great to have someone like Ashley to help me.
Yeah.
Even better. That is awesome, Ashley. What I would love you to do is, just pop. Do you have, and I didn't ask you this before we came on to the thing. Do you have like a webinar coming up or a freebie that you would like to offer for our audience? Anything like that you'd like to share today?
Of course. Thank you so much for asking. I actually have 2 webinars coming up. So one is Reclaim Your Strength, and it's for people that it's geared towards people that have been labeled sensitive or intuitive or empaths as well. That one, honestly, it's just, I just felt called to do it randomly in the spur of the moment. But the big one that I've got coming up is Love, Sex, and Magic. And it's all about opening up to more self-love, but also opening up to, create soul relationships, like find your soul partner or find those meaningful relationships and understand why we are the way we are in love and sex and creating the world we want.
Perfect. Sounds amazing. So if you would like, I'd love to invite you to pop the link in the comments after this. That'll be awesome. My beautiful VA has gone and found your podcast, and she's already put the link in the comments. How good is she?
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful woman.
Thanks, Palma. So if you would like to pop the link for that in the comments, we'd love to go and check out your webinars, check out Ashley's podcast. What's it called?
Relatable with Ashley Lopez.
Relatable with Ashley Lopez. Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. I love having these really generic conversations with wonderful businesswomen such as yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for holding space for me too. I felt very grounded and calm.
Oh, nice. That's what I want.
Beautiful.
Everybody wants.
Yes.
Gorgeous, lovely lady. So thank you again. Now, just to let you know, ladies, as I mentioned before, so we are coming live, now for this interview with Ashley in about half an hour's time. I'll be back live in the group for day 4 of our challenge. But I just want to put a call out there to all the new and the existing members of our group. If you would like to be interviewed on one of these business member spotlights, please PM me, and either myself or my VA, Parme, will get back to you, and we will certainly book a time. But I want to thank you again, Ashley. It's been so good speaking to you this morning, and I want to keep this connection going because it's awesome.
Yes, I agree. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gorgeous. We'll see you soon, lovely ladies.